Now let's go to the National Basketball Association. It's over after a grueling season. The regular season is over now. Now it's all about the postseason, the playoffs, and Detroit Pistons were the last team to seal a playoff berth after they defeated
one of the worst teams
the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
They had
no surprise.
Yeah, they had to do that the hard way, though, because at the point that they were actually trailing, but they did just enough to get that particular victory, and as a result, they're in the playoffs. Let's see some of the results now quickly before we focus on the playoffs, both in the East and in the West. You can see some of the results. Cecilia, the Miami Heat defeating or losing against the Brooklyn Nets. It's all about Dwayne Wade recording his fifth career triple-double in his final dance. Would have loved to see Dwayne Wade dance more times in the playoffs, but it's too bad that's not going to happen.
25 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. That was a good way to actually bounce.
Fantastic way to bounce, even though he lost that. Let's move on to the Hornets and the Magic. It was Kemba Walker scoring for the 3 points in what is likely to be a farewell game for the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets unfortunately couldn't make the playoffs.
So he's likely going to go.
He's going to become a free agent, and who knows, perhaps he might go on to bigger things and better clubs. We'll see how it pans out. Let's move on to the Knicks and the Pistons. We talked about that already. Also, a very interesting matchup was between the Thunder and the Milwaukee Bucks, where Russell Westbrook recorded his 34th triple-double of the season, and the OKC were able to get 6 spots in the West. So they've done everything to avoid the Golden State Warriors in the first round.
I'm not just finishing assist, but a wonderful performance from them also in that win over Milwaukee Bucks.
Correct. Let's move on to the Mavericks and the Spurs. San Antonio, where LaMarcus Aldridge scored 34 points and grabbed 16 rebounds for the Spurs in their 105-94 victory over the Dallas Mavericks. Nowitzki's final game was also going out on a losing. No, it doesn't take anything away from their legendary status.
Had the 30 point they needed in their home court.
Their home court,
so away from home,
doesn't really matter. Let's move on. The matchup between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, that one ended 95-98, 99-98, beg your pardon, in favor of Denver, and that was enough to clinch second spot in the West for Denver. We also saw wins for the Blazers as well as the Clippers and the Memphis Grizzlies. Kevin Durant in that match against Memphis got a 16th technical of the season, but it's going to be available for game 1 of the playoffs.
Which is a good one.
Fantastic. Let's see what the playoff matchups look like right now. Cecilia, starting from the East.
Yeah, Bucks and Pistons. Pistons will secure the final belt. What a way to welcome them into it. We'll see what Blake Griffin can do in this one.
All right, you also have the Raptors taking on the Magic. It's basically first versus 8, second versus 7, on and on and on like that. So 76ers, Nets as well. Celtics and the Pacers. That's a mouth-watering one to look forward to. Absolutely. Let's go to the West quickly and see what that looks like. Obviously, the Warriors are taking the #1 spot in the West. We'll be taking on the Detroit. They'll be taking on the Clippers, I beg your pardon, LA Clippers. That's in the West. You also have Cecilia Nuggets taking on the San Antonio Spurs, while the Blazers will take on OKC Thunder. And last but not the least is the Utah Jazz versus the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Warriors and Clippers. Bring it on. We'll see how this will happen. Then the Nuggets and the San Antonio Spurs is another big game for Nuggets. Well, they've had a good season, but then can they deal with San Antonio Spurs? Spurs may have finished 7th, but then you know that when it comes to the playoffs,
of course,
that's when the big stars have to wake up now. The Portland Trail Blazers and the OKC is another game to look forward to.
Well, what a game that is. It's a shame the Blazers are missing 2 of their top scorers in Yusuf Nurkic and the other guy is CJ McCollum.
So both of them are out. So Thunder will have a better day.
Yeah, we'll see about that. You never know. You never know how this
kind of lucky against Jazz.
Yeah, but they've done well enough to get that spot in the Western Conference, and that was enough for them. So we'll see how it pans out. Tip-off is going to be on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Can't wait for that one to start.
Now the game we're talking about earlier, that's the game between the Magic and the games between talking about Pistons and of course the New York Knicks. They had to dig deep, despite the fact that they were playing without the injured Blake Griffin, but then they were able to secure that final playoff belt.
Do you imagine if you needed to win a game and you have to beat the New York Knicks, who have been wretched all season, and you don't take that chance, then I'm sure they wouldn't have forgiven themselves for that. And that's why the Detroit Pistons went all out to get that win, and that was enough to get them into the postseason for the 2019 season.
And Charlotte Hornets had won.
All right, let's go to Texas now, where basketball writer Ayotunde Onobolu joins us now to review the regular season of the NBA playoffs, as well as to preview what's going to happen in the postseason. Ayotunde, good morning and thanks for joining us again. Apologies for waking you up this morning.
Nah, it's fine. When it comes to talking basketball, we can do it at any time of the day. Come rain, come shine. This is what we live for, you know.
That's what I'm talking about. Fantastic. Let's quickly go through, your major talking points in the NBA this season.
Well, it's kind of surprising that for the first time in 9 years, 10 years, we don't have LeBron James in the playoffs. That's the total summation of the terrible season the Los Angeles Lakers have had. It's really shocking. I can't believe that on the final day of the season, when you thought LeBron James would be with his teammates trying to get ready for the start of the playoffs on Saturday, he was actually in Brooklyn cheering Dwayne Wade in what was his final game of the season, final game of his career, as a matter of fact, when the Miami Heat traveled and lost to the Brooklyn Nets. But all in all, I'm not sure I'm too surprised about the way things panned out in the season. The Golden State Warriors obviously clinching the #1 seed in the Western Conference. They didn't look particularly super like we expected them to look like throughout the season. But there were certain games they actually showed that they were, in fact, the team to beat. You look at a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, who, for some reason, rallied around Giannis Antetokounmpo and, believed in the strategies, believed in the game plan, believed in the philosophy of their coach, Mike Budenholzer, who, remember, when he was at Atlanta, he won 60-plus games in Atlanta, went to the Bucks, and he did the same thing. And they look very strong in the Eastern Conference. So lots of questions are also yet to be answered. Who's the MVP, and who are the guys that will be taking home the individual awards and what have you. So in all, it was a really interesting season, a season where a lot of records were challenged, the records that have stood for many, many decades. Who would have thought that in 2018, 2019, we'll be thinking about records that Wilt Chamberlain set in the 60s, and guys like Russell Westbrook and James Harden will be challenging the stereotype in this season. That was very ridiculous in a very good way, and that there were so many three-pointers. The league has become a three-point league right now. It was such a remarkable regular season, to say the least.
Fantastic season, definitely. We all enjoyed it. Cecilia and myself followed from when it started until the very end. Now, let's talk about the guys that stood out all season. There's going to be the regular season, end of season awards, I beg your pardon. And I know you don't have the voting powers just yet. You're working towards getting the voting powers for this kind of situations. But for you, let's start with the rookie of the year. Who are you going to choose? Who's your pick for that one?
It's a no-brainer for me. It has to be Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks. You look at the first part of the season, he carried them, and for a long time they were actually in playoff contention. But then, of course, they say water will find its level, and injuries came into the picture, and ultimately they could not survive. Trae Young in Atlanta in the first half looked like he was throwing up a lot of shots, looked like he was trying to figure exactly what his game is going to be like in the system of the Hawks. In the second half of the season, he was terrific. But after all is said and done, for me, it has to be Luka Doncic.
Doncic for the Rookie of the Year. Cecilia, the next category we want to look at now is the most improved player.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one we're looking at now. If you can say who your star player is, just a picture of who your star player is. Who saw Defensive Player of the Year already? That has been given out. But then, who do you think will get this one?
The most improved player.
Absolutely,
you think
yes.
Of guys, you think of guys like D'Angelo Russell in the Brooklyn Nets, became an all-star this year. He was absolutely terrific. You think of guys like Nikola Vucevic, who powered Orlando Magic to their first playoff appearance since 2012. And those guys were phenomenal. But my pick would have to be Pascal Siakam of the Toronto Raptors, because going into the start of the season, when former coach Dwayne Casey was fired and his assistant Nick Nurse became coach, I never thought, and a whole lot of people never thought, that Pascal Siakam was going to have an expanded, enlarged role in the team. But then the coach believed in him, Masai Ujiri believed in him, all the stars in the team believed in him, and he became one of the best players in the league. He had improved numbers, but his energy, his efficiency, his hard work, his zeal, and his passion, I mean, you could not trade it for any other thing in this world. And for that reason alone, he takes home my most improved player of the year award, Pascal Siakam.
Who's your sixth man of the year?
The sixth man of the year, oh man, that's got to be between Lou Williams of the Los Angeles Clippers and Jamal Crawford, who scored 51 points, became the oldest player in NBA history to score 50-plus points, and the first man to do it for 4 different teams. But I'll go with Lou Williams because he was the guy who came off the bench and he led the Los Angeles Clippers in scoring and powered them against all the odds into the first round of the playoffs. They might be losing against the Golden Warriors. I would expect that to happen. But it's going to be on record that it was a sixth man who actually led a playoff team in scoring and put them in a position where they can actually challenge for honors in the context of the championship. So it has to be Lou Williams, the greatest sixth man ever, in my opinion.
Fantastic there for Lou Williams. Last but not the least is the biggest award. Definitely, this one is asked to be the most contentious, the most valuable player. Who you choosing, Giannis or James Harden?
Yo, bro, my lungs are saying Giannis, my nose is saying Harden, my left hand is saying Giannis, my right leg is saying it's that close. It's that close. But let me go on record and say that James Harden will repeat as the most valuable player of this season. Look at his run. Yeah, he dominated the ball a lot of times, but you look at his run, you look at the fact that he went, 30-something games in a row, scoring at least 30 points, something we had not seen since the 60s. You look at the fact that, Chris Paul has been a shadow of himself this year, and you wonder why the Houston Rockets are in the playoffs. It's simply because James Harden carried the team on his back and moved them all the way. Exactly. So I'm for that reason alone, I'm just going to... Giannis Antetokounmpo had a phenomenal season. But, man, we cannot sweep under the carpet what James Harden did. But like I said, it's very tight. Any one of them wins, and I'm fine. But I'll be choosing James. All
right, then. We'll see how it pans out later on when the awards are done. Ayotunde Onobolu, thank you very much for joining us on the show. You can go get your sleep now and prepare for the playoffs.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.